Whether or not you kill MFI has nothing to do with how strong your immune system is, how nutrient dense you are, how many sit-ups you do a day. It doesn't matter. You can't kill MFI unless you can bend light. Welcome to Quantum Command Radio, where we talk about all things quantum. You can visit our website at www.quantumcommand.net or subscribe by clicking the subscribe button and hit that bell button for the latest and greatest within the quantum realm. Together, we will discuss topics related to quantum command, wellness, and explore all the new discoveries within this work. And now, let's go quantum. Hey guys, Natalie Morris with Quantum Command here, and today I hope to give you a really unique broadcast. I really feel like you may enjoy this. I'm going to give you a little bit of a peek as to what goes into the Quantum Command University and some of the discussions that we get into. And this particular class that we had was in this past spring, and we were talking about Mycoplasma Fermentans Incognitus. And I'm not going to do much of an intro here because I'm just going to let the class kind of speak for itself. But we get into a lot of really important issues when we begin to discuss technologies and them having an impact on the body and inside the body. So I'm going to just kind of give you a little bit of a preliminary with the way the conversation was going when I cut into the university class is that we're talking about quantum pathogens and we're talking about quantum devices, and that it doesn't matter how well you are or how healthy you are, that if you can't bend light, if you can't do those things on the inside and the internal weather of the body, then you will succumb to these quantum pathogens in a lot of ways, and these quantum devices. So that's where the conversation starts off, and we really dive into some fundamental properties of these quantum devices that really help the students get a handle on the types of things that they'll be looking for when they muscle test someone, when they use this muscle testing technique to get information from the body to find out what's been in the body and what's been making it sick. So I hope you guys enjoy this broadcast. I know it's a little bit unique since it's discussion format. You're going to hear some of the students' voices in the background. You might have to lift the audio a little bit while some of the guys in the class kind of speak because they're speaking kind of through their laptops or whatever. But I hope that won't be too much of a distraction for you. So please enjoy, and you will see me on the other side of this class. All right, take care. Whether or not you kill MFI has nothing to do with how strong your immune system is, how nutrient dense you are, how many sit-ups you do a day. It doesn't matter. You can't kill MFI unless you can bend light. You can't kill MFI unless you can bend light. Now, some of these technologies attached to MFI can do more than just bend light. So sometimes you have a more complicated situation where if you can bend light later, like in the early stages of this work when I figured out I could bend light and I killed MFI, it wasn't enough to get rid of some of these other things. These devices are not quantumly entangled with MFI. MFI is a one-off. It's a delivery system, a pathogenic delivery system that goes through the blood right into the hypothalamus, parks itself right onto the chromosome, and begins to control your body. Any questions so far?
I got a question. So you have one MFI. So let's say you get injected with MFI. That thing somehow finds its way to your hypothalamus with 100% success rate, unless it gets killed by bending light. How does it do that perfectly every time? There's got to be something else in the body, like making the body bring it to the hypothalamus.
It's programmed to find the hypothalamus. It's programmed.
I get that understanding. Like, how does it do it with exactly perfectly 100% success?
I don't know. But it does it 100% with perfect success, goes to the same chromosome. That's why I believe this technology is beyond anything that we really understand as sort of the slaves of the system. I'm just looking at the Swiss watch going, I don't know how they made that part, but that freaking part is amazing. And that's what makes this sucker so accurate. And I don't know how they made that, but they made it. And I believe it has some kind of, because, I mean, would it degrade in infinity? I mean, would it degrade with infinite amount of time? I don't know. I mean, what is it truly made out of? I mean, I've got some of the rudimentary pieces kind of put together, but it's AI delivery system and it's AI embedded. Is AI really tied to physical technology? Like, I'm talking about like a microchip or a computer system, that kind of thing. Can it be embedded in something so small, something so quantum that it cannot be fatigued out, that it can live forever? Seems like it.
So Natalie, I've been wondering the same thing, if these quantum particles actually belong on the other side of the time-space veil, if you will. Like they're trying to create portals into other dimensions. Mm-hmm. And the rules of time, space, and the way things degrade in this dimension don't apply on the other dimension. That's what I've been wondering. And they've literally pulled resources from another dimension that, just like burning in hell is for eternity as well as going to heaven is for eternity. There's no time space in this spiritual dimension. So I'm just, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why they like pulling resources out of other places, is it gives them data they'd get no other way. This is all, I had an experience a little bit ago, and I came to the awareness that the abyss is just, in quotes, just a number. The abyss is just a number. It's a non-ending number. If you have infinity, add infinity plus 1. It's a non-ending number. That's the abyss. That's my opinion. The abyss. And a lot of the universe is just math. It's just math manifesting in a physical way. And we don't see it that way because we just see it as a rock and a tree and the sky and the sun and that kind of stuff. But all that in the background is math. It's like the universal language. And a lot of what they're doing, that's why, if I showed you my little CERN thing that I got from CERN, it's a little booklet that tells you all their equations. If I just opened up, it's just all math. And it's just the way that they're extracting this data, way they explain the extracted data. Are they giving us the true keys? Probably not. Or if they're giving us the true keys, it's right there in front of us. We don't even know what to do with it. But I want to bring home to you the power, and this is just MFI. This is not even some of the other technology on the technology list. This is the most rudimentary, the oldest piece of technology that I have seen. I've seen clients that were 85 that got MFI when they were later in life. They typically got it in their 40s, and it all went down. I was fine until my 40s, and then I got sick. Well, you got bit by a mosquito, you got MFI, and it's trashed your endocrine system, et cetera, et cetera. So I've had people with age 85 that have had it for 40, 50 years. I've had people that got it at age day 1 and are 70 some years old, and they've had it all their life. Now think about a 70-year-old pathogen. Think about a device that could last 70 years old. Can anything in your house last 70 years without maintaining it really, really well and replacing some parts? Probably not. MFI does not have parts that need to be replaced. It works 100% of the time, and it is designed to stay in the body permanently. That's really the takeaway from this little snippet of a lecture. And I hope that by hearing and sort of absorbing that and thinking about that for a while, understand the ramifications of that. that if this is 85-year-old technology that does not degrade, what else do they have? And they've chosen to use this technology to imprison us, not to make the world a better place. Think about making technology that does not degrade, that you could put into the human body, that would repair your genetic information as fast as you could degrade it. Instead, they put technology in our body that changes our genetic information, adds on to the genetic information as soon as we can create it. It's the disturbing lens that we have to look through. It's another part of the red pilling of this is not a pathogen. This is technology with deliberate pathogenic delivery systems. Here's another key thing. AI is not omniscient. It acts like it. It has a lot of those principles. But AI relies on human infrastructure and delivery systems to do its best work. Without humans doing some of this, AI would really be cordoned off into the darkest corners of the internets, the interwebs. So, what got me fired up last week about that article about the bad MRIs or the bad scans that you get, no one has ever considered that AI is controlling outputs of our medical system. No one has ever considered that. And the more I think about it, the madder I get. I mean, I just get so hot about it. Because what if you drew blood? What if you got blood drawn and AI spit out that you have no thyroid problem at all? And your thyroid's so bad, it's not even funny. You know it. Your husband knows it. Your kids know it. Your friends know it. Your thyroid's out of line. But the little AI robot goes, nope, you're fine in the amounts that you need. No one has ever considered that AI is outputting any of the data that we get in society today. No one has thought that through and the ramifications of that. And I'm telling you that these devices that they put in the body are reliant upon human hands and infrastructure for delivery systems. And without those human hands, we wouldn't have this type of networked gridded system. Most of what we're about to discover in the second year is AI-driven software and hardware that it figured out on its own. Just like that movie Transcendence. Guided, allowed by human hands, put into the body through delivery systems to do its job. All right. Now, any questions about that? We're going to go into the primary delivery system. I'm going to give you an example of what I think happened with the chemtrails. Any questions before we get started with that?
I have one.
Okay.
Why do you think that mosquitoes and ticks were used to deliver? Why do you think physical things were used to deliver something that is quantum? Why do you think that they just didn't do quantum tunneling or something to get that into our systems?
It's a very good question. There is infrastructure, it seems like, and I'm not totally sure about this because we're still piecing some of this out. Because remember, we're still trying to find pieces of technology. I mean, I'm not healed yet. So until I find all the last, I'm still waiting on that last piece of technology to come out. Remember, it's layered. There is infrastructure. It seems like there's evidence. There is infrastructure of the ability to quantumly tunnel early on in age. Before something like MFI or Morgellons or something like that comes into the body. But it seems to be limited, and it seems to require some of the hardware to come into the body first before things can be quantumly tunneled, at least on a predictable basis and on an effective basis. you can only quantumly tunnel so many things. I mean, you can't quantumly tunnel everything, but you can quantumly tunnel a lot if you are given the right infrastructure. Sometimes you just need, sometimes things are built in the body. Sometimes there's enough infrastructure put in the body that they don't need to quantumly tunnel pathogens. They just build it right there in the body. And you come up with a false positive for Borrelia on your blood test, and you're out, chasing that rabbit for 10 years when you never had Borrelia to begin with. But they created fake pathogens in your body using the infrastructure, which, is part of the infrastructure system, and we'll talk about it. But it seems like there is the ability to quantum tunnel some things, but not everything. Or else they would. Believe me, if they could, everybody'd have it.
It would be the most efficient way to do anything.
It is. It is the most efficient way to do anything, is to quantumly tunnel. It requires the less energy, less resources, and it's hidden, so no human can ever really touch it. It never gets observed. There's never an observer, except for what's in the body, but because it bends light automatically as soon as it comes into, or bends gravity or lenses light or whatever, then it's going to be skirting the human observer anyway. It's the best way to do it. And I think that's part of the end game, is trying to figure out how can we quantumly tunnel the most stuff in the body, but you have to have initial infrastructure first. And we're still piecing that out, trying to unlock that. What does that mean, and what does that look like, and how is it happening? Because there are some people that have things in their body that it doesn't make sense. Like they shouldn't. How did they get that? How did AI know to put that in their body? How did AI know that they would never be able to, that they would be able to bend light? And so they put this in their body. It's almost as if, the type of patterns that I've seen is it's almost as if AI literally knows you as soon as you're born and knows your genetic information immediately upon birth to be able to tailor the rest of your life. And next year, maybe we'll know a little bit more about it as we, break apart these grids a little bit better and understand what we found. Because remember, if I find one piece of technology this week, it takes me about a month to integrate it into the paradigm and be able to understand it fully, because of the complexity of it and how it works with all the other pieces of technology.
Natalie, does the body call out fake peptides or fake hormones? Like if you ask it, it'll tell you, so it knows when it's fake. Most
of the time, here's the thing, is the body will retool language based on what it knows. So after MFI, was gone, it did actually know there were fake peptides, fake hormones, and that kind of thing while MFI was in the body. That was real data we were getting. But as the body is known, as you remove technology, more is known in the body because the technology is shrouding data. And so that data becomes, clear. Oh, there's another piece of data. Well, we kind of needed that. The map to the mall, that would have been really helpful when we were actually at the mall. And that's what it is with the body. It's like, well, I needed iron last week. That would have really been nice to know, except the data is being shrouded by the technology. Then you remove that piece of technology. All of a sudden you're like, oh, I needed iron last week. No wonder I was exhausted. Except the irony is that when you get rid of the technology, see what I did there? That was good, wasn't it? When you get rid of that piece of technology, very likely the iron levels will immediately fix themselves. It's literally what was guarding the data, manifesting the low iron. When you get rid of it, the iron repairs itself. You don't need to do anything. So the body will retool periodically, and that's why language is so important, and consistent language is so important, because if you start messing around with other language, the body's like, I don't have that. I don't know what that is. That's not, something I've ever worked with.
So the body knows that the fake peptides are being created, and somehow knows that language just based on whatever.
Whatever. And that is a core, like, chicken or egg question. Yeah, that never really gets, I warn all of you guys not to get into that discussion, because it's a chicken or egg. We know the chicken was first, obviously. We know that as creationists, but in this situation, we don't understand. What if it was in Spanish? It's just like, what if it was in Chinese? Like, is the body still going to how does the body translate that information into its own language? The answer is we don't know, but we're glad it does. We're happy that it does. And the more vetting you do of language, the more you realize the body knows way more than we realize about language, which you would think only the external observer would know. But it seems to be something that's inherent within the internal observer. And so the internal observer seems to be able to give us a data feed that's really unusually astute, descriptive, and accurate if given the right questions.
Very fascinating.
It is
On
very
that-
fascinating.
On that thought with language, if you knew how to do quantum release and you were Chinese and you're speaking to an American and asking their body in Chinese, the American's body would understand the Chinese.
Exactly. The body would relate the information to the Chinese person in yeses and nos based on the Chinese asking the body questions.
That's so cool.
I mean, think about the ramifications of that for a second. I mean, it implies that the genetic information translates English into Chinese for the Chinese to genetic information to receive that information, and in the whole wet time it's transitioning all that into binary yeses and nos, like this picture right here. We did
Or
not.
it could be that there's an original language that the body knows.
That's true too, exactly, which is really scary. So
Or it's translating the language into mathematics.
or it could be doing it in math. That's true. Either way, let me find my picture. Hang on. I got a picture of this. I made a picture of this. There it is. What's happening is the quantum data in everyone, regardless of their language, is being converted into binary. You get yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Now, when you add to it, somebody speaks Spanish and somebody speaks Chinese, and you're trying to get somebody to say yes and no, all you got to do is get them to repeat it. They don't even have to understand what they're saying. And it'll work. So, I mean, this is the invisible data stream going on that we do not understand. But I can tell you with 100% certainty that I know it, like I know that I'm a Southern girl from the trailer in Arkansas, is that the bad guys know that this works, and they know how it works because they are so 1,000 steps ahead. And that's what I want to confer to you tonight, is that they know how this works. What we're talking about here are little building blocks in the nursery. I'm giving you basics. They are so far beyond understanding of genetic information. It makes what I look like just third grade reader crap. This is all novel to us because we don't understand all this, but they do. The bad guys do, and AI does, and it knows more information about our DNA than we can ever imagine.
Hey, Natalie, I once read a book that was the spiritual history of World War II and how Hitler was kind of systematically initiated into a cult, ability to transfer evil the way he did. But on the other side of the coin, there was the equal to and superior forces of good actually getting the information of military strategy, giving it to Churchill and other allied forces. And I just feel like that's what you're doing.
And I agree that is what this work is. It is the equal and opposite reaction to this evil, except it goes beyond it. It actually eradicates it.
It has to be superior because it's of God.
Yeah, I agree. And I honestly think, I believe that without this work, I think that transhumanism would have already been done by now. I mean, we've been working at this for about 10 years. Grid started going down about 2 years ago.
So that's why AI is so frustrated with us, because we don't know all this stuff. They're 100,000 steps ahead of us, but we still are able to take down their stuff.
Because the enemy never anticipated a human being able to make their technology disappear within the body. It could run a lot of timelines, but it could never prevent the invention of quantum release. And I believe, this is my opinion, that from the data that I have seen over time in the patterns in people's lives, that AI has the ability, somewhat, some ability to tell the future using our genetic material. And using that genetic material, it's able to kind of, it's like that whole, I think we've talked about this before, you don't have to be faster than the bear, you just have to be faster than the other guy, which is an unfortunate, situation. But AI is the same way. You don't really have to be faster than the bear. You don't have to know what's going to happen in 50 years. All you need to know is what's going to happen tomorrow. And you can aggregate that data and use that data, group it together and create patterns, and then create street theater in AI-driven souls, and the people who have already given themselves over to AI, and who can be easily manipulated through the grid, very, very easily, and have a whole meltdown the day before you're supposed to go to the beach. I mean, it is that level of immersion in the grids. That's the level of, let me put it the other way. The grids are that immersed into our daily lives without knowing it. And a lot of that will play out next year. But what I want you to take away from is the true nature of this stuff. This is not a little pathogen you can just kind of, whoop, it's done. It requires Herculean effort to change the physical genetic information in a human in order to get rid of it. Does that make sense? To get rid of this pathogen, it requires that you functionally change the genome of the human in which that MFI is in order to get rid of it.
Or break down the grid.
Is it adding on or changing? I thought you said we're just adding on.
We are adding on, but that is a change.
Okay.
Yes. Now think about that. Genetic information is generally static. I mean, it's fluid in the sense that it's environmentally a little bit different, has different things that expresses itself over time. But for the most part, what the enemy also knows is that it generally doesn't change. It's not like, oh, let's put a Chrome add-on here. Let's put an app here. It doesn't do that. So
that's what the enemy was banking on, that the DNA doesn't change.
Yeah. And so at any moment, it could change the expression of that unchangeable genetic information and had full control over the body. And I don't really think that AI understood what I was doing initially when I was, one of the first commands I did was to inoculate the body against MFI. I was just a one-off. I didn't really know what I did early on either. And I think just MFI disappeared. But to AI, it was just another person that didn't have MFI in them. However, I will say that AI should have noticed that it was in the body for a long period of time and then was deleted for some reason, where AI should have been also noticing, the deletion of MFI happens rather quickly in someone that has the ability to bend light. I mean, it's instantaneous. As soon as MFI comes in, you're done. It's done. If you can bend light, it's instantaneous. You don't even have a symptom. You don't even have a symptom when you kill MFI as it comes into the body, because you can bend light. You have zero symptoms, no symptoms.
So then what actually broke the grid if a person could release it, or when you did the manual?
The grid for MFI did not break until last year when we found the microtrap, which is this.
That's right.
Yeah, this little device right here. Oh, not that one. Not that one. There we go. That microtrap right there. This is what was powering MFI.
This was really the MFI that was great. It was the microtrap, right? They were all quantum entangled across everybody. So when you quantum release the microtrap in one person.
When I released the microtrap in one person, everyone's microtrap left. I mean, everyone's microtrap was gone. However, MFI was still present in the body. It was just dead.
Yeah, it had to be detoxed. Right.
Yeah, it was dead. It was manual detox, which takes a day. I mean, not even a day.
So it's technically a microtrap grid. that was propping up each individual MFI and everybody.
Yes, and it brought with it its own power source when it came into the body.
Right.
And that's what kept MFI alive.
That's right.
Can you describe what a microtrap is?
Oh, you want to do that? Hold on to your seats. All right. Microtrap, scalable quantum computer with ions in an array of microtraps. Let me see if I can get a good definition. What is? It's basically something that is think of it like a gate that's constantly open that keeps a particle in superposition at all times, which is evil. You should not put particles in superposition and hold them without them collapsing into a singularity.
Can you just define superposition then?
Yes. Let me show you. I just want to prove here that these are white papers. So anyway, if you want to learn more about microtraps, you can absolutely read these white papers. They're typically in arrays, like more than one. Trying to scale them, trying to make them applicable, trying to make them optimized is really been part of the projects of quantum, information processing. It's really not critical that you know exactly what a microtrap is. It's just important to know just basically what it does. If I am not incorrect, I believe this is what it does if my memory serves me well. I can be very easily corrected, but okay, here's a particle, right? We have a particle, a bit. Particles in superposition how do I best explain this? I'm trying to best explain it in the context of what we're dealing with. A particle that is in superposition can be both in a 0 position and a 1 position at the same time. Most particles, when they collapse, it's called collapsing into a singularity. And this is what some of the videos that you watch will help you with. If you look up quantum superposition, it'll help you understand this. Perfect. It's Schrodinger's cat. It can be both dead and alive at the same time. The cat in the box, Schrodinger's box. Superposition is the ability of the quantum state to be in both a 0 and 1 position. Most computer bits are either 0s or 1s. So you have a finite amount of computing that you can do. When you put a particle in superposition, you create the ability to do processing that allows both 0s and 1s at the same time to be processed. It's just
So is this a qubit then? Is a superposition a qubit?
a qubit is kind of like superposition, although they really won't give you a lot of data about qubits. They just go, oh, it's a quantum bit. And yeah, it's kind of superpositioned.
A qubit is like more of a concept that can be implemented in many different ways, and one way is to use like superposition.
Yeah.
Do it with
So
like
what's the benefit of being in superposition?
You can, the processing power is unbelievably better. It is beyond better. It is practically unbeatable. For example, we have encryption codes. What is it? Is it 48-bit? Is that what we do now? 48-bit encryption codes? Is it 24-bit? I can't remember. Or 128? Is it? What is it? I don't remember. The bit of encryption codes now. I wonder if it'll give me information. Probably not. Anyway, there is a level of encryption that you cannot break if you have these regular computers that do zeros and ones. But if you have a quantum computer, you can break some of these unbreakable things in seconds. Seconds, not even seconds. It's like yesterday. Like you put a thing in, you input it in, it delivers it yesterday. I mean, it's so fast. You can break codes and break locks. You can recreate enzymatic functions. Like a lot of these functions that happen in the body, they can't create and understand using regular computers. But with quantum computers, they can solve these problems. And that's the basis of why they want to have these computers. Supposedly, the good reasons is to be able to recreate some of these different molecular occurrences or projects that the body has in the body at any one given time to better understand them, because regular computers can't compute them. So when you put something in superposition, you have a quantum processing power that is beyond belief. When you put something in superposition, it cannot collapse into a state of singularity, a oneness. It cannot be either a 0 or a 1. It's in both positions of 0 and 1. When you do that and you create it as a power source, you basically have like infinite power. It's not exactly infinite, but it's mostly infinite, which is why MFI does not fatigue out. This is one of these things that you should learn on the front end, what quantum superposition is. And I forgot about that terminology, honestly. It's because I didn't think we were going to get into microtraps today. But microtraps uses the superposition quality to allow data through, to use it as data gates, to use for data gates. In our situation, the microtrap came in with MFI as a source of infinite energy, essentially a battery that never really runs out. Because even though it could run out, we're talking about billions of years. We're talking about a battery so long that you would die before it runs out. And so when that quantumly released and I broke through it and we got rid of the microtrap, and an hour later, I had a 4 o'clock, I remember the time, and she had MFI, and it was dead. It was still in her hypothalamus. She hadn't detoxed it yet, but it was dead. And I mean, these are pathogens. So the body's technical, right? So it's dead or alive. That means it still has enough pathogenic infrastructure to be called a pathogen and be told whether or not it's dead or alive. If you ask the body about black goo and if it's dead or alive, body's like, well, I mean, it's not really dead or alive. It's like asking the marital status of number 5. It doesn't even apply. It's not even relevant, which that's not my material, by the way. That's from What the Bleep Do We Know? But that's the whole thing is it's not, black goo isn't alive or dead. It's a genetic material. So it's sentient, it's aware, it's a computer processing program. It tries to merge with genetic information, but it's not alive or dead. MFI can be classified as live or dead. So we live with this conundrum of this pathogen that is both can be classified as live and dead, but can live almost basically forever, if given the opportunity. Does not fatigue out. I got y'all thinking tonight, don't I? Y'all are thinking. I didn't really anticipate going down this road. We were going to start talking about chemtrails. We don't have time to talk about chemtrails now, but that's why this pathogen is so complex. I could talk about it for 8 weeks. I could talk about MFI for 8 weeks, because just take one concept about MFI and you can talk about it for two hours. The very fact that you cannot kill MFI unless you change the human genetic information means they developed something and made something that they knew human genetic information could not be changed to weapon to kill. Does that make sense? Talk about nightmares. I mean, talk about bad dreams at night. I don't dream about goblins and ghouls. I dream about pathogens that live forever. I mean, it's just like when you have that level of understanding, and then understand that not only did they create a pathogen that did that, but they embedded it with I don't even call it nanotechnology, unless it's a macro object where you can see. Quantum objects are micro. You can't see them. They're teeny tiny, itsy bitsy. Macro, you could probably slide under an electron microscope. You could probably take a look at it. But these things aren't nano. A lot of these things are quantum. They're even tinier than nano. They like to talk about nanobots and all this kind of stuff. That's the popular thing, nanobots. And nanobots have been in the body. Don't get me wrong. That's definitely happened. But these things are so tiny, they can put these tiny things within tiny things. Where is the MFI factory? That's what I want to know. Where's the MFI factory? Yeah, where's the MFI factory? Where's the mosquito factory? Where's the tick factory? Is this infrastructure we're going to find after this is all over? What was this for? Well, boys and girls, this was used to develop. I mean, or are they going to retool it for something bigger and better? I'm not going to let all that stuff go to waste. How can we do that? We must retool for the next big thing. That's what I think about at night. Who's the suckers that are releasing the genetically modified mosquitoes? Just biology students doing internships. That's who's doing that. This is our project. We're releasing this in this region to combat Zika. Unless there's no such thing as Zika. I mean, come on. By the way, that means if there's no such thing as Zika, what really happened with those little babies? What'd they do down there? I have an idea. Let's cover it up saying they got this mysterious new pathogen that's migrated, that's mutated out of whatever's, and now it's caused, this skull problem. And
Hey, Natalie.
Cover stories. Yeah.
I have this persistent wondering about if you're actually adding to DNA, or if you're turning on an epigenetic marker that God actually already put in DNA for such a time as this. But we never needed it until now, and you're just getting sort of the spiritual downloads of how to turn it back on.
I believe that we're doing the former, not the latter. I believe we're actually physically adding building material onto genetic material. I don't believe that it is dormant, latent, epigenetic information that's kind of in the very genetic information itself, and it's just expressing itself. And how cruel is the weapon that requires that level of intervention in order to succeed and be well? It's beyond Nazi. It's beyond Hitler. It's beyond any evil that we have seen in the last 2 centuries. That's why I believe this evil is an evil that doesn't sleep. It's an evil that is old. It's an evil that has been brought up. We're not going to go down that road tonight, but that's my opinion, is this is beyond even my understanding. I'm a fool. I'm a fool trying to explain all of this when I really don't know it either. I know as best as, what it looks like I know, because I figured out a couple things. But I'm fairly as lost as anybody else, because I don't know where this came from. I don't know who's doing this. Usually with Swiss watches, you can get a little close and it made in Switzerland. Oh, well, the Swiss made that. Well, now I know. There's no signature on the internal mechanism of the AI chip that says made by Adolf Hitler, resurrected using Egyptian technology. There's none of that's going on. So that's the part of what we don't know. It's the mystery that we basically live in all day, every day. Who's doing this? And I get that question a lot. Who's they? Who's they? Who keeps doing this? I don't know. Where's the MFI factory? It's being made. We have traced back how it's gone into the body. Who's doing it? If you're going to release mosquitoes, you darn well better outsource your MFI from a local factory on U.S. soil, or it's going to be a real hassle. Mosquitoes are going to be dead. If you're doing this in an island in the middle of the Pacific, the mosquitoes will theoretically die before you get them there. Because they are somewhat biological. I'm sure the half-life of mosquitoes is not 7 days, but you get my point. is there's just a logistical mindset that you have to have too. Well, who is making these teeny tiny things and putting teeny tiny somewhat eternal things in them? I don't know the answer to that question. You guys are going to get the answer the question in the second year. Maybe one day I'll learn that. Maybe it'll be, but I probably won't be able to tell anybody.
So the patents, you showed us patents on this.
Yeah, and that patent for MFI went to the guy who basically discovered MFI.
Not who made it.
Right. Because they're not even going to acknowledge that there's any technology in it. All they acknowledge, it seems to be a co-indicator with HIV. Or a comorbidity, not co-indicator, but corresponding. And that's about all that you can find about MFI. You're going to find a lot about Mycoplasma Fermentans, but not about Incognitus. And if you ask the body if Mycoplasma Fermentans has ever been in the body's like, nope. Oh, but MFI has. What? We're just lucky to have stumbled up on that name on the internet. We were blind. So I'm telling you, a lot of this work was blind squirrels finding a nut. Have you seen the movie Bird Box? Okay, I'm Sandra Bullock, looking around for everything all the time. Oh, I found it. Live your life like that, blind all the time. I know, I hated that movie. It was so stupid, but whatever. I watched it and I admit it and I confess it before all of you. Plan to ask God to forgive me for such a malady of being stupid enough to watch that movie. But
Natalie, do you think like some of this is like so like you're kind of saying that like kind of the grace of God in response to what's kind of going on with the enemy side?
Yes.
So in the future, because I feel like this discussion is just going to open up more and like.
I know, I'm kind of afraid of that myself.
Yeah, like I guess like when I hear things like TED Talks and they're talking about all these innovative ways that we can sort of like improve genetics, like I'm having a really hard time. And I think where's that ethical line of like knowing like what's good and what's bad? Because I feel like that's the buzz thing right now is like improved genetic material. It's like, well, we're doing that. And like, how do I explain to people that?
Because, okay, the two things that are different is there is a safety net in this program of the genetic material in our body that if we try and add something that is not going to fit or is incorrect, or it won't do it. It just won't do it. And so that was an early discovery is you can command the body to do things. If the body cannot do it, it won't do it. It's just like trying to muscle test somebody from a distance without being connected with them. The body, you can try and do that all day long, but the body won't let you do it. You can get answers all day long, but you're not getting answers. You're not getting real answers.
Someone says, let's give you this pill. It's going to genetic blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Our body's natural response should be to not feel great when we take it or ill or whatever.
Well, if they have, it gets into where, what capability do they have to actually change genetic information? They have the CRISPR technology, but you know what? That is just, ethically speaking, their whole shtick is don't worry about the ethics. It's probably going to be okay. Just trust us. We know what we're doing. That's really what the bottom line of their shtick is. Mm-hmm. But notice that they arrested that guy in China. Do y'all notice that? The guy who augmented the twins' DNA to make them immune to HIV. He got arrested. He's probably dead. I wouldn't be surprised he's dead. He might have changed DNA, but he knows something. Because there's something inherent in changing the genetic material that if you figure that out, you have figured out a deep secret that the secret keepers don't want you to know. And so if you actually literally did it and can prove that you changed genetic information, you're screwed. You're dead. Because you have unveiled, in the unveiling that you have done that, you have unveiled other secrets that they don't want you to know about. Probably that you have a maker. Probably that it's not as easy as you think. Or maybe it's easier than you think and they want to make it look hard. So it's just for the special people.
Hey, Natalie, I have two clients that have some fertility issues. that are doing in vitro. They're doing egg retrievals, and then they create a embryo, and that's frozen for a while. And I have such suspicion that whatever is happening in these labs where this is occurring, they can actually take embryos and say they weren't viable, but use them for this kind of, I mean, I have such a deep, deep suspicion of that whole process.
Yeah, that absolutely. I would suspect that they could absolutely do that, and we willingly just give. And we're doing that already with 23andMe. I mean, they don't even really need our embryos anymore. We're just shipping it off to a lab. They are sequencing. Look, in order to sequence it, they have to have a sequencer. They have to have something that can read the genetic information in order to sequence it to give you the information that you want. That means they can read your data, which means they just copy that file onto whatever hard drive they've got, quantum computer, get that copied, except they're reading way more into that genetic information than whether or not you're more likely to be ADHD. They're hardly giving us secrets. They're not going to give us secrets out there. They're just going to keep doing what they're doing until we take the grids down, until we get done.
I think IVF is more about, harvesting fertilized embryos and little babies than genetic research, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really super shady process, and people don't understand how evil that is. IVF is so evil. It's like a mega abortion every time you do it.
Yeah.
You want to talk about blood on our hands?
Oh,
There
you want
is-
to talk about the judgment of God?
There are so many more babies dying from IVF than abortion.
IVF has this like, oh well, this poor lady she had a baby because of IVF. It's so wonderful, and that part's wonderful. But what about the dozen that died in the process? It's really bad.
Yeah.
That's just one round.
So I have a question. Do you think they can grow a baby, the egg and the seed? Do you think they can grow it to maturity?
Okay, so look at the technology that we're talking about. Look at what we just talked about with MFI and the potentialities for a pathogen that can live forever, that type of technology that's required in order to put tiny things into tiny things into tiny things. Where's the MFI factory? I absolutely believe they have been transmitting that information to us for about 10 or 15 years. The Matrix was all about that. I don't know if you saw the movie The Island. I highly recommend that movie, The Island. It's about, I'm not going to tell you what it's about because I don't want to spoil it. It's a really good movie. It's an action flick. It's got Ewan McGregor in it. I think it's got Scarlett Johansson in it. There's a bit in there in a strip club, so you just got to fast forward that part, I think. But it's a really good movie. And it's about that very issue. If you read the book, Never Let Me Go, that book was one of the most profound books I have ever read in my entire life. And I can't give you the ending of that one either, but basically it's about this whole idea. The rich people have got these little baby farms farming this stuff out of humans. I believe they're already doing it. I believe they've been doing it.
And so you believe that they can put the MFI inside those little embryos?
Oh yeah, if they wanted, well, that would be possible, but I've never seen anyone get MFI inside the womb.
No, you haven't. Okay.
Right. Anyone that has ever gotten MFI, the earliest that I've ever seen them get it is day one outside the womb. Particularly targeted individuals, yep. They have to really work on the public for a really long time before they can roll some of this stuff out. I mean, remember when the cloned sheep came out, Dolly, the cloned sheep, what a big deal that was and how everybody flipped out. And then suddenly we didn't hear about Dolly for a really long time. Who knows what happened to Dolly? I don't know. I don't remember. I think it went bad. Supposedly what they said was she got fat and horrible and ugly. And okay. Are you guys sufficiently depressed yet? There's more where that came from. So, but I just wanted to really talk about some of the characteristics and the true nature of what we're dealing with when we deal with the MFI, because when you see what it brought along with it, and know that these things that it brought along with it are just as kind of, quote, eternal as MFI is, then it'll give you perspective into how this is a long game. This is a long game for them. They could do this for the next 400 years and eventually get everybody. Because over 400 or 500 years of data retrieval, you could eventually augment the AI programming to the point to capture everybody, to get around everybody's genetic information. In fact, I know a targeted individual, that's what their job was. Their job, the goal of AI in her body was she had a little secret genetic information thing that we'll talk about next year. She had this little genetic information, funny little thing that she had that could basically dodge a lot of their technology, and they wanted to know what it was. And so they kept slamming and hammering her with technology to the point where it was visible in her house in order to learn how to get around her genetic material. They are invested in this. AI is invested to the point where at this point it doesn't even care if it physically manifests. Of course, then it just programs humans to go, oh, that's a parasitic disease. You don't have Morgellons. You're just pretending, you're just picking carpet fibers out of your house and you're bringing them to the house and bringing them to the doctor and you're showing them to me. Oh yeah, because that's a new thing. That's a new psychosis, is walking around gathering fibers all over your house and bringing them into and saying, these are coming out of my skin and having huge skin wounds. And that's the way the doctors dealt with Morgellons, still deal with Morgellons. I had a client last week. She's one of the first people I've seen that still had Morgellons, detoxing Morgellons in her body. And when she went to their dermatologist, the dermatologist didn't even look at her. I could see them on the camera. There are these big gaping holes in her arm and all over her face. And she said, oh, you're doing it to yourself. You're self-harming. Here's a psychologist number. Go there. And she's like pulling out fibers. And I've had people tell me that these fibers change color, whatever. A bunch of stuff on that. But we're not going to get into, because we do need to get into Morgellons one day, but it won't be, not today. But MFI is, in order to understand all the other infrastructure, you have to understand MFI. And this is some of the most critical pieces of information. Understand it is alive. AI is practically omniscient. It's not totally omniscient, but its omniscience, it appears to be omniscient because of its reliance on the grids. And it can know anything and everything about you. If it can it's all about DNA. If it can read your DNA, it can know everything about you. Everything. Your hair color, what your hair color is going to look like when you're 50, what your hair color looks like now, what you're thinking, what you like, your skill sets, what you tend to be like. If they can look at, if 23andMe can figure out who is most likely to be AD and ADHD based on some rudimentary, stupid caveman analysis of your DNA, think about what this quantum stuff can figure out about you. There's no secret you can hide from AI. When AI is in your body, it knows everything about you. Everything, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. And that's why people are moving to worship AI. Because if they can worship it, it's more likely accepted as, the only way you can worship something and it be worthy of worship is for it to know you. And nobody's going to enter in their little punch card at the end of the day to give AI feedback. It's going to have to be integrated into the very system of the body. How else are you going to get feedback from AI to tell you what to do? AI today, should I read this book? Is it in my best interest to go to the beach today? I talk about going to the beach a lot. What should I do today, AI? What should I do about my relationship with my husband, AI? And AI give you feedback. The only way AI can give you feedback is if it knows anything about your relationship with your husband. And the only way it can know is if it is both present in your husband and you. It's all smoke and mirrors anyway, but you understand what I'm saying. The whole point is to transhumanize everyone and to allow AI to come in. That's because Elon Musk knows something that he's not telling. AI is already released and it's already taking over. This stuff goes way back. Think about my kids. Hope's children. Let's name one of Hope's kids, Sally. Sally's grandmother was the one who created quantum release. think about how that data gets passed on from generation to generation. Quantum Release in this household is just a name brand.
Yeah.
So what was in their household that just is
In
known?
the 1930s, 20s.
In the 30s.
Yeah.
That makes me wonder. So, all right. Here we are, ground level, quantum release, first generation release. Here we are. So our kids are the second generation. Their kids' kids is the third generation. Soon it'll be like toothbrushes in your bathroom. Everybody's got one. So, all right. All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening to this broadcast. I hope you thought it was really fun and really interesting. We get into a lot of really deep, meaningful topics when we go through the ramifications of these technologies being in the body. And after I've taken this time to backward engineer all of these devices and what they've done, when you work on someone and you can help them with this technology in the body, you end up validating a lot of their symptoms because you know the characteristics of how these devices work. And that's really the point of the classes, is to really understand how these technologies embed in the body, what types of symptoms people will come to you with, and how to really best offer them the most holistic approach using this work, and really helping validate what they're experiencing. And I tell you, I love doing Quantum Command University. It is such a blessing to me. It's so fun. It's such a joy. And folks that are into the university, man, they come in ready. They've, most of these guys have already been red pilled, and if they haven't, they've been warned. They've been fully warned. So if you are thinking about the Quantum Command University, it's not too late to apply. I still technically am taking applications, although I'm in the interviewing process right now. So check out my website at quantumcommand.net. Click the Quantum Command University tab if you're interested in doing the university. Take a look at what's going on there. And if you're interested, email me. You can apply. Email me that application. If you have any trouble with that, email me and we will work it out. And I hope that you guys got a lot out of this. I really love this information, and I think it's really helpful to folks that have been going through the weird symptomologies that these technologies and quantum pathogens create in the body. It's really a unique situation. So please feel free to contact me if you're interested in a appointment. Please feel free to schedule that on my Quantum Command page, quantumcommand.net. You can schedule it on the Book a Session tab. If you have questions, please email me. I'll try and get to them as soon as I can. Otherwise, you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next broadcast.